This script in particular was difficult to come up with, even more so than the last episode, if you'll believe it. It's not because episode 4 of High Guardian Spice is particularly offensive or gross or awful or anything like that. That would mean that episode 4 of High Guardian Spice is a thing, and episode 4 of High Guardian Spice is nothing. Let me put this into perspective. There's an episode coming up that is a literal anime filler episode. The characters take a break from the overall plot, and you as an audience can skip it and lose out on nothing of the overall story. More interesting and relevant things happen in that episode than in episode 4. I didn't know that it was scientifically possible for something like that to happen, and considering that episode 3 felt like it was written on cocaine, it's definitely whiplash. That's why this video is going to be a double feature, and don't worry, this is the only time I'm doing this. With that being said, I'm gonna be honest with you. Even then, it's exceptionally hard to write the script without resorting to fluff or filler, because even less happens in episode 5. Do you want to know the entire plot of episode 5? Time makes Sage cry, and Sage runs off to a classroom. The others try to find her. This is 22 minutes of content according to High Guardian Spice. Episode 4 is slightly less bad in this regard because it technically has a subplot. Remember those parasects from episode 3? Those clearly harmless things that helped Parsley escape from a basement after she survived her attempted murder? Yeah, well now they've invaded the school apparently. And it's like, oh no, the bunnies are everywhere. We gotta get the fuck out of here. I've seen Night of the Lepus. I know what's gonna happen. Anyway, from there, Time and Parsley spend the weekend together. And as for the other plot, Sage gets a Terrasphere. You know, the magic item that lets anyone do anything. Sage ends up not liking it. They spend the episode buying a new one. I want my 22 minutes back. And no, I'm not dividing this video into separate plots again because I've said like all there is to say about the 3 of these. You think I'm skimping out on you? I'm not. I have not seen this much dedication to not having a plot since SpongeBob's Waiting. And Mercy. That was 7 minutes long. Could you imagine that episode being 22 minutes? Like, there's this scene where the characters come across an infinite hallway, and they're all like, let's not do that. That could be at least slightly interesting. We have to keep playing hide and seek with Sage.
The infinite hallway at least sounds exciting.
We're looking for Sage, not adventure.
You think there's more to it? To be as fair as I can, in episode 5, Parsley, Rosemary, and Snapdragon are writing a book report on some famous mythical acts, which is another perfect example of the show's incompetence. In a show about a magical school, they decided to ignore the magic and emphasize the school. Finding a magic axe might be interesting. Using a magic axe might be interesting. Even repairing a magic axe might be interesting. But no, we're writing a fucking book report on an axe that we never even get to see.
Done!
Well, we won't fail.
It isn't the best.
You see, this is supposed to be funny because we never actually see what Rosemary writes, so there's literally no punchline or point to anything. The only one of these 3 plots that has anything of substance is Time and Parsley staying at the Dwarven Forge. And that's because it's the most cliché thing that I've ever seen in my life. Let me ask you, when you have a female teenage character, what is the first conflict, the very first conflict you can give her that comes to mind? In a show like this especially.
You have another girl now. Raise her to be the help.
What's that? She wants to be independent and spread her wings, but mommy and daddy want her to stay at home? Ding, ding, ding! Never write that plotline ever as long as you live. It has been done to death. There is nothing new or interesting you can do with it at this point. It's especially bad here because it follows High Guardian Spice's motto to a T. It makes no fucking sense. So Parsley is going to High Guardian Academy. She's learning forging, how to be a blacksmith. Her parents hope that she's gotten it all out of her system and want her to come home, to work as a blacksmith. I'm going to repeat that. Her parents want Sage to stop learning to be a blacksmith so she can come home and work at home as a blacksmith. The round peg does not go into the square hole. Parsley and Time's subplot is the only one of the 3 that actually has any real conflict. When one of Parsley's brothers gets on the roof, they've got to save him before he crashes to the ground. So they, use a bucket tied to a rope. I shouldn't have to elaborate on how stupid this plan is, do I? Like, it's not something I should even have to explain. I shouldn't have to say that the kid could easily just miss the bucket as he fell, or if he hit the wall of the bucket hard enough, which he probably would, he'd fall over. And that's without even mentioning that Parsley was on the roof herself earlier in the episode, and could probably easily climb back up there. I shouldn't have to say these things, but I guess I do, because somebody wrote this. Someone somewhere thought that this could work in any reality ever. You'd think that Sage getting a Terrasphere is actually a big, huge plot, but I swear, it is literally the only thing that happens. I mean, she makes This face. Speaking of which, the technicals are getting even worse here. Episode 1 was made with Scotch tape and pixie dreams, but each episode afterward looked like they were getting a little bit better. Episode 3 was actually presentable in its animation. However, episode 5 has this awkward, awful tree branch animation, and episode 4 introduces us to a dwarf baby. And after seeing Dwarf Baby, none of you can ever bitch about Ice Age Baby ever again. Like, what the fuck is this thing? Whose idea was this? There are literal demons in this show, and the most frightening thing that I've ever seen in my life is Dwarf Baby.
The third shortest kid put a bug in his nostril.
Time, you know that all the dwarf boys use the same character model, right? Like, they're all the same height. That's not even mentioning the audio problems. What the hell emotion was that, Rosemary? Whatever it was, I don't think it was human.
Oh, Time, no, don't sleep in the woods. You'll scare off the bats.
If that was your best take, I don't even want to think about the takes that you didn't use. Time is actually starting to get more of a role in these 2 episodes, but her acting is so droning and draining that I wish she didn't.
I'm not hiding. I just didn't want to bother you.
Speaking of audio and acting though, episode 4 introduces us to the man, the myth, the legend, Slime Boy. If you've never heard him before, brace yourselves.
I was working as a busboy in a hotel, and she was sitting, drinking her coffee, and she was so beautiful. And I say hi to her. That's how we met.
Sorry, I dubbed him over with lines from Tommy Wiseau. I did that to prove that I am not dubbing him over with Tommy Wiseau when you hear his actual lines.
Oh, it's fine. We're on break. We got catapulted out because of a traveler infestation. That's what everyone calls me. I kind of like it. It's succinct. Slime, and then boy.
Yeah. That's Slime Boy. Did you guys know that Slime Boy is actually a fan favorite character? Like, for serious. People claim, not ironically, actually seriously, that they hate everything in the show except Slime Boy. And you know what? I can see it. There are 2 kinds of bad. There's the slow, awkward, frustrating, tedious shit that is most of the show. But then there's the absolutely baffling, bonkers bad stuff that makes you stop and ask why. Who seriously thought that it'd be a good idea to have the potions teacher try and murder her students? Who thought that they should have a dragon explode into stars? And who decided to have a character,
Oh, it's all in the wrist of your brain. I have to demonstrate it a lot at the store. Here, hold on. I'll draw you a diagram.
It's things like this that are at least memorable. And it puts High Guardian Spice into a very strange category, where the show would be better if it was worse. These baffling, bizarre choices are the best part of the show. You have to remember, this was an intentional choice. This isn't just an awkward line reading or bad dialogue.
Angie tells me you're a botanist, hmm?
Yes. I just started working for the council that organizes Lingard's fauna procession.
This was an intentional interpretation of the character that someone decided to do, and everyone who had the power to say no thought that it was acceptable to put in the show. Whatever Slime Boy is, Slime Boy was wanted. I'll be talking about the minor characters like Snapdragon, Amaryllis, Parnell in a later episode, but as for now, I will say that they do end up being liked a hell of a lot more than the main characters. Yes, people like Amaryllis, who was a bullying bitch in episodes 2, 3, and 5, far more than any of the main characters. And that's because that's the biggest problem with High Guardian Spice. The main characters. You know, the ones we're supposed to be following, they're either bland and boring, or awful and boring.
Can you?
I'm sorry, did you say Time?
Sure, she's my friend from High Guardian Academy. The school got all infested with Travers and was evacuated for the weekend, but her mom's away, so she's staying with us.
Holy hell, Parsley, that's a little social blindness that even I can't relate to. I've gone on and on about Time and Parsley. In the first 3 episodes, Time has contributed basically nothing to anything. She shot a cat, and in episode 5, she has to apologize for stupid reasons that we'll get into. And Parsley is dwarf, end of story. But that alone doesn't illustrate the depths of the problem here. Let me put it this way. Rosemary's backstory is that her mother has disappeared. This makes her very, very sad. So her conflict is that she has mommy issues. Sage's backstory, as we'll learn in episode 4, is that her mother isn't accepting of new magic. So her conflict is that she has mommy issues. Also in episode 4, we learn that Time's mother wants her in Linegarth, but Time doesn't want to be there. So her conflict is that she has mommy issues. And finally, also in episode 4, Parsley's mother wants her to work from home, but Parsley doesn't want to. In short, her conflict is that she has mommy issues. You could argue that the individual rooms are cherry, scarlet, crimson, and maroon, but they're all still fucking red. Episode 5 is also where Sage gets Ahem. Real fun, real fast. Do you know why Sage goes running off crying? It's because Amaryllis is bullying her. And then Time, not even paying attention, literally only says one word that kinda sorta agrees with Amaryllis. Then everyone forgets that Amaryllis was the one bullying Sage, and now it's Time who has to find Sage and come up with an apology.
You can do this.
Really? I thought I couldn't do anything. I thought you were Amaryllis' new puppet.
Sage, Time said one word. Literally, one single word. Here's the clip if you don't believe me.
Blah, 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 blah. Old magic is sacred. Sweating into plants instead of going to lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah?
My god. Get the Exorcist. She's been possessed by Mao Zedong. This is after Time literally saved Sage's life at the start of the episode, by the way. Then again, that one word was a piece of High Guardian Spice dialogue, and that does tend to have that effect on people.
Parsley, is your brother supposed to be on the roof?
Time, come here. Come really, really close. I'm not gonna hurt you. Come closer. A little bit closer. Almost there. Okay. I'll go slow to make sure you get this. Just for you. No, Time. The helpless child is not supposed to be on the roof. I don't know why you thought it was a remote possibility that the helpless child should have been on the roof. Don't worry though. You'll learn all these kind of things when you finally make it to kindergarten. Don't feel bad, just keep trying. We're all rooting for you here.
I was crying here earlier.
This seemed like a good place to cry.
If I told people that in High Guardian Spice, characters went looking for a special classroom to cry in, they'd think I was making exaggerated claims to make fun of what the show is.
Anyway, sorry. I just came in here to cry, but
It's like a fucking parody.
Try not to lose an arm. Guardians mustn't worry about their limbs. Only the limbs of wisdom and honor.
Ah, yes, because you can be a super effective guardian when you lose your arms haphazardly.
Look at her. If she gets any more anxious, she'll combust.
Good. It'll save us a shit ton of trouble, trust me. I am not looking forward to episode 6. The writing really dies at the end of the Terrasphere plot, though. So Sage's cousins tell her that her mother is a hypocrite, because she used to use new magic, and now she despises the stuff. On first glance, this seems like an alright resolution to the plot, until you realize that this logic can literally be used for cigarettes or other drugs. Sage's mother used to smoke cigarettes. Sage's cousin used to think that she was cool for it. Then Sage's mother stopped, and now she doesn't want Sage to smoke cigarettes. Seriously, what's the difference? From what is established, I have no reason to believe that Sage's mother's beliefs are unfounded. There has to be a reason that she gave up new magic and returned to old magic. Whether or not you establish the reason specifically, the fact that she does so has established that there is a reason. I guess this is some pretty advanced stuff, basic structure. But I don't know why I'm doing that, because even the bare basics fail here. In episode 5, Parnell is crying in the classroom. Why?
Why were you crying?
You know, Cal?
No, I don't know Cal, because he's going to be introduced in episode 8.
5 pages on Buenos Aires. Any questions?
Yeah, who are you? You never gave us your name! Episode 2 was the first day of school. Episode 3 was the first week. Then in episode 4, it feels and it's written like it's the first weekend. That's the natural story progression. But Parsley's parents are saying that they hope she's gotten it out of her system. Like she's been going to the academy for weeks or months. Parsley, of course, wants to stay at High Guardian Academy, even though on screen, literally the only thing that's happened is that she fell down a hole. If I didn't know any better, I'd say that these 2 episodes were completely out of order. But you have to take my word for it, they're not. Then again, according to High Guardian Spice, time is a myth. This is supposed to be some kind of medieval fantasy, right?
Are you ready for your greatest challenge yet? Beignets!
So then, he poured frozen peas down my shirt.
And yet we have Anais, whose entire ensemble is a complete anachronism. I get that she's supposed to be the more masculine one in the relationship, but she looks like she's not just in the wrong show, but the wrong genre entirely. This isn't a fantasy outfit, this is cyberpunk. And now I'm going on about clothes. I cannot emphasize how much nothing happened in these 2 episodes. Between 44 minutes, only one plot-relevant thing happened, Sage getting her Terrasphere. The episodes toyed and teased with making interesting things happen, like the infinite hallway, but they decided not to do any of that. And this waste of time wouldn't be so bad, except for the fact that several relationships are not well developed in the end, to the point where they may legitimately come across as offensive. The overall plot comes across as rushed and half-finished. The themes are underdeveloped, the characters are underdeveloped, and one of my absolute greatest pet peeves is a show that both wastes time and needs more time. I can tolerate one or the other, but both existing at the same time is a surefire way to make me angry as a critic. I hear that the show in general was rushed because I hear every excuse in the book about the quality of High Guardian Spice. I hear that Crunchyroll really pressured them to get it done as fast as possible, that they had to start animating before scripts were even done, that everything was bad because of budget, that they're swearing because Crunchyroll made them put it in, that the people in the trailers didn't know they were being filmed for a trailer, somehow, that literally the only people who have no blame for what went wrong with the show were the people who actually made it. Troubled production is never a fun thing, but right now I'm going to tell you one of the harshest truths in all of creativity, no matter which medium that you've picked. Troubled production is never not a thing. No matter what you're doing, you will always need more time, more money, less corporate oversight, and you could have always made a better project. Did Crunchyroll really rush the studio? Did Crunchyroll really slate the show for a 2019 release, push it back to 2020, and then keep it on the shelves until late 2021 without fixing anything? And at the same time, still rush the studio? Is Crunchyroll really that fucking incompetent? Did Crunchyroll really make a trailer without telling everyone in the trailer that it was a trailer, and thought that it would be a perfect way of selling the show that they were staking a very risky financial venture on? I don't know, and I'm not interested in finding out, because it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. The video game Duke Nukem Forever took 14 years to finally be made, and it came out as an outdated, offensive piece of shit. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, often regarded as one of the best video games of all time, took less than a year to create. Frozen 2 is notorious for its troubled production. They started working on it before they even knew the plot, and as a result it has things like Kristoff leaving the movie for 40 minutes. Meanwhile, there was another Disney movie that had such a troubled production that the people behind it were essentially making two different movies. That movie? The Emperor's New Groove, one of the most beloved animated films of the 2000s. As for budget, in the 2020s, we have entered the era of the billion-dollar box office bomb. High Guardian Spice had a difficult production. There's no arguing that. We could argue the specifics, debate on what's true and what's not, but in the end it's not relevant. A budget of $0 and a time limit of a day doesn't change what High Guardian Spice is. It doesn't make it good. It doesn't make it technically better. It might make it a more impressive feat, but it doesn't make its flaws disappear. All it tells me is that it's another reason that the creators made a mistake in pitching the show to Crunchyroll to begin with, and that's one mistake that can't be argued or excused away.